am joined by Mr. Joe Rex Sport. So first off, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, I'm a graduate of Luverne High School. I'm a lifelong resident of Luverne, Crenshaw County. I've been in the military. I've also been the mayor of the city of Luverne. I've been the superintendent of education of Crenshaw County. And I've been a broadcast engineer with WSFA TV. I own the local radio station. And I think I can repair automobiles till they've got front wheel drives. Anything that needs to be done. I can repair a clock, the old wind-up clocks. I can repair anything electrically, just about it, motors, you name it. Used to do refrigeration, but not anymore. So, you know, I was asked, how did you learn to do all these things? I said it wasn't by choice, because I had to. I couldn't afford to pay somebody else to do it. So I had to learn to do it myself. But anyhow, and I think the other thing is because, I don't know if it's good or bad, but I have an inquisitive mind. I want to know what makes something run. And I think we use the phrase, what makes it tick, and I'm inquisitive about things like that, and I look into it, and if I can't find someone else that can tell me, I'll tear it down myself and see if I can repair it and put it back together. And of course, it's taught me a lot that has helped me during my personal life, and like I said, as far as my household, my children's household, friends' households, that I've helped them repair things. I can rewire electricity. I rewired my own home. I rewired two of my son's homes. Rewired my in-laws' homes and my dad's home, and my neighbor's home. So, and those things I was fortunate enough to learn part of it through school. The wiring came through the old vocational agriculture department. He taught a class on electricity, how to wire houses. And that, it really was just electric lights. It didn't provide for the type of appliances we have today. You didn't have air conditioner units back then. Electric stoves were few and far between. And so it was just basic electricity, but he taught it to me well. And from that, I expanded on it. And then when I was going to college, I worked with a TV repairman, and he taught me electronics. And from that, I took Federal Communications examination to be a broadcast engineer. And that led me to working as a broadcast engineer with WSFA TV. And that ended up being principal of Highland Home High School. Now, if you put those two together, you can explain it to me.
Oh, no, that's hard too.
And from that, I came to Luverne as the coordinator. Then they called it coordinator of federal programs. And I did that for 4 years, and then I was appointed superintendent of education 17 years, and then it was time for me to hang up and go home. And I went home for a year or two, and then I was encouraged to take a position on the city council at Luverne. I ended up staying on it 14 years, and then when the mayor left, I was appointed mayor, and I stayed there 14 years. And now I have a friend of mine that put it this way. He says, what do you do now that you're retired? He says, I don't do anything, and I don't start that before 10 o'clock in the morning. So that's my situation today. Married, as I said, 5 children, 9 grandchildren. All the grandchildren, and one's here, you know quite well, Kelly, and Armstrong. And then her father is a district judge. My oldest son is manager of a smart plant north of here, our largest industry. My youngest son is a managing partner international with Ernst & Young accounting firm. Quite successful. And then both my daughters are school teachers. And one taught over here for a number of years. She was kindergarten teacher, Kale. And then my middle daughter is currently working over at the Board of Education in the, I forgot what program they call it, which to help students that need help so they can graduate with the class. Virtual school program.
Virtual, okay.
Oh, yeah. She works at that at present. And been married to my lovely wife for 65 years. Long time with the same woman. But enjoyed every minute of it.
You were drafted into the Army in 1954.
1952.
1952.
Yeah, I was drafted in 1952. I got out in 1954.
Okay. And fought during the Korean conflict.
Yeah.
So can you explain your experience?
Well, experiences in Korea was something that I related to Mr. Howard. I wouldn't take anything for him, but I wouldn't give anything to have him again. It's Korea, when I went over there, was one of the most devastating places you have ever seen. The cities were totally bombed out. They're just rubble of buildings standing. Homes, what few nice homes they had were the same way. Even the Capitol building had been shot with artillery fire, holes all through it. And they had managed to repair it enough to maintain the government there, South Korean government. And then in the farmland, there was no mechanization at all. Everything was done by hand. And basically no animal power as we had in our country in the early years of mules and horses. And they were done by hand. And they pulled the whatever farming machinery they had by hand. And so it was, living in this country is hard to imagine how backward they were at the time. And then I know, and it pleases me, having been over there and seen all of that, to see the accomplishments that country's made since 1954, since they signed the truce. And you're well aware now they're probably one of the leaders in the electronic market throughout the world.
Wow.
And they make a quality product. It's not a product that's underrated. And it's not overrated either. It's a great product. The automobiles are, and they make a lot of electronic things, television sets, all kinds of two-way radio communications. And being a country that small, they had to become industrialized. They didn't have enough farmland to farm. And not enough trees over there. Trees are very few, and you don't cut a tree. It's just, it's rocky, it's hilly, so you don't have a lot of timber growth. But they have used the resources they had to become a quite influential nation in our world today, and I think that's quite an accomplishment. And I had the opportunity to help see part of the beginnings of that, and I'm still seeing the ending products of it. So it's something that's had a lot of effect on me and how I felt about those people. And the other thing, as far as the military part, yes, I was in war, and war is not pleasant. No way is war pleasant. When you're at war with somebody, you're trying to destroy the enemy, and he's trying to destroy you. And that's a means of survival. And that's akin to the animal world. You know, the more powerful of the animals survive. The others don't. The weaker, don't last. And in human society, it's not a lot different. It's just we're a little more sophisticated about it. But And then I saw the bloodshed, I saw the wounded and the maimed and the lamed and the dead. And that's something that'll stay in your mind as long as you live. And there's nothing pleasant about it. I will make one statement. My younger daughter was questioning me one time and said, "Dad, you have never told us anything about your experiences in the Korean War." And my response to her was, "Sweetheart, I'd rather talk about pleasant things than unpleasant things." And I never answered. And I still haven't talked about some of the unpleasant things because, and I think any veteran you see it go through it feels the same way. They don't like to talk about it. It's something they want to put in the past, but you can't get it out of your memory. It's there to stay.
So after completing your time, how was the transition back into normal life, your normal life back home?
Yeah. Transitioning was hard. After my time, later on, the military came back. They had a training session and getting rehabilitated to come back into civilian life. I didn't have that, and it was extremely difficult. And you'll have to understand, I was gone 18 months. I was away from home, and you have to experience it to understand it, but I was that home was a memory. It wasn't reality. And I have made the statement, had I went somewhere else and relocated, I could have started my life over and probably been happy. Yeah, but in coming back home, though, I was a recluse. When I came home, all I wanted to do was I went to school, go to school, come home, and stay in that house with my wife. Nobody but us. I didn't want to get out and associate with anybody. Didn't even want to go to a movie. I just, I guess that's part of the fix it has on you, that you think you've been deprived of a part of your life, and in some degree you have, and you don't want to talk about it to anybody. You just want to be left alone till you feel like talking and feel like doing what you want to do or going where you want to go. And if you don't, then don't ask me to. And I think that affected a lot of veterans like that. And that's the reason they started the rehabilitation programs, to get them where they could come back home and enter back into society. And I like to phrase it as being a contributing member of society instead of one that takes away from it.
Okay. So you were a principal at Highland Home.
I was.
Okay, and what did that mean to you?
Principal at Highland Home was one of those times that I accepted the employment, not because I wanted to be a principal, but because I saw it as a way to have a livelihood until I could do something else. I didn't really want to be back in education. But then, after I got there, I had a unique experience, and you young ladies have heard about it, but I experienced it firsthand. And that's when we integrated the public schools in Crenshaw County. And I had the first black students in Highland Home School, who've been in school in Crenshaw County. And there was a lot of apprehension on the part of both blacks and whites, and both of it was out of the unknown fear. It didn't have anything to do because they lived amongst each other, but they didn't know what it would be like, And so it was, I think President Roosevelt one time said that we have nothing to fear but fear itself. And I found there to be a lot of truth in that statement. And so I met with my black families and I met with my white families 2 days before all the students came. And I met with them separately. And I told the black families, in effect, I says, when your children come here, they are students of Highland High School. They're not going to be treated any different from anybody else. And that's the way that'll be. And they asked a few questions, and they were satisfied. I met with the white students, white parents, and I told them the same thing. I said, now when these students come, I said, they're children just like your children. And I said, they're going to be treated just like your children. Not going to be treated any different. Whatever punishments are involved, they'll be treated the same way. And they accepted it too. But I did tell them one thing. I said, now you can accept it, or you can go and leave and go to other schools, and you can kill this school. But if you want to maintain this school, you need to accept it and let's move forward. And they did. And so, from that standpoint, I think I probably felt as good about that situation of any that I had been involved in the school business. And I think, I have had a lot of people to compliment me on making it work and maintaining our school system. Because we were in a situation at that time, we went to basically all private white sector. Some would have been here, some would have went into neighboring communities or wherever. And as a result, we maintained our school. Had a good school, we still have a good school. Anywhere I go today, I speak highly of the Crenshaw County school system. I speak highly of Luverne High School. And because I'm not making false claims. I feel that we have an excellent school system, and you can't get any better education anywhere than you can get at Luverne High School. And you get a well-rounded education. You learn how to get along with the people. You learn how to mix with society. You learn how to be responsible. And you learn the benefits of trying to gain a good education if you want to move ahead in this life. And, when I was a teenager, high school education was what everybody sought to get. Very few people got college education because you had to pay for everything. And you didn't have any grant programs, you didn't have any student loans, you didn't have anything. And so if your parents wasn't financially able to send you and pay everything, you didn't go. And I didn't go. I told you, I was one of 9 children. My father couldn't afford to send me to college. But when I was in the Army, I thought about it. I had what we called the GI Bill. And I said, now I've got opportunity to get education. So when I came home, I used that GI Bill, and I got a master's degree through that. And then following up on that, I sought to improve on that, so I ended up getting what they call education specialist, which is 6 years. And by then I'd had enough going to school and classes. And also I had been appointed superintendent of education then. And there wasn't any monetary benefits of trying to further my education, from the local school board. So I felt like it was time that I concentrated on something else, and did.
So I see you've brought some items. Would you be willing to show us?
What?
I see you brought some items.
Oh,
Would you be willing to show
I
us?
brought 2 things that might be of interest to you. Number one, I wish there was a young man in here. This is the shirt that I was discharged in when I came home from Korea. And now I had some trousers, but I wore those. They were the same color as this shirt. And this was my rank, sergeant. And of course you can see the shirt, the double pocket. And we didn't have a button-down collar. Now if we dressed for parades or what have you, we had to wear a tie. Otherwise we could wear an open collar. And of course the rank is the insignia there, the stripes, and in the Army that's what they call a staff sergeant. And No, that's a sergeant. And the staff sergeant has 2 stripes, and master sergeant has a 3rd stripe on the bottom. So I was a sergeant. And that's the shirt. Then I brought this as a result of my children again. This is a shadow box. And this is the medals. And also some personal things of mine from the Korean War. The medals, good conduct. Now, every military man that stayed in service and didn't get in trouble, I think we use the terminology, keeps your nose clean, gets a good conduct medal. This is a National Defense Medal. And this is the Foreign Service Medal, I believe, in this Korean War, and this was given by the Republic of South Korea for our service there. And these are the ribbons that represent the medal. Now, you can wear medals on your uniform, those things are heavy. So generally what you do is put little ribbons up there by pins, you know, to designate, and they designate the various things that you incur. The 2 little stars inside that medal are what they call battle stars. And you earn a battle star by being in combat during a 3-month period. And you can see that I was in combat 6 months. I had 2 battle stars. And of course I went over in February and the war was over in July. So I only had a 6-month period in there. I got 2 battle stars. And then these 2 are placed up here on the ribbon. And this was my unit thing that was on the sleeve of the jacket. It wasn't on this jacket because when I got out, they gave me this to wear home. You didn't put anything because you wasn't in a unit. you were on your way home. Of course, again, little brass replicas of my rank. This is my original dog tag that I wore around my neck day and night for 2 years. They gave them to me when I went in the Army, and I wore them till I got home. And that was also your identification. If you went anywhere to get anything associated with military, you had to show your dog tag. That's like your driver's license today, you know. And then the little things up here are the things that you were trained. We were taught to throw hand grenades. Number 2 was shoot a carbine rifle. Number 3 was to shoot the rifle, which the old standard rifle was what they called the M1. And then the 3rd one was a machine. Our next one was machine gun. We were trained to shoot machine guns. And the last one was to use a bayonet, which wasn't very little bayonet using then. A lot of bayonet using in World War II. But yet, on the end of that rifle, you had a bayonet, and you went in battle, you stuck that bayonet on the end of it. And so those were the things we were trained in, to how to use a rifle and how to position it and how to plunge it to make it useful. Machine gun was one of the toughest. Machine gun is a powerful instrument, and a lot of people in movies they depict them shooting with their hands and things like this. I'd love to see somebody shoot one in the hand. When I shot one, I sat down behind it. I braced my feet against the legs of that thing, and I leaned all the way back and let my hand grips hold me back so it wouldn't throw me backwards. And if you didn't do that, when you pull that trigger, that thing might go this way and spin you all the way around. Powerful instrument. But once you learn how to shoot it, it was something you enjoyed doing, just to watch it. Now, I never shot it in battle, but I did shoot it on our practice range. And even after the truce was signed, we had to go out about every 6 months and fire all of our weapons and our armory, you know, and then come back and clean them, take them apart and clean them. And so I shot it out there on the practice range. And the other thing I fired on the practice range that's not on here was a bazooka. And that's something else. It's, I don't know where you've ever seen in the picture, but one man puts it on his shoulder and they put the thing in the back. The other man stays on his hand when he gets ready to shoot him. He pats him on top of the helmet. Then he pulls that trigger. And you don't want to be standing behind that thing. It doesn't hurt either one of the people. If you stand behind it, it has this tremendous force goes behind it. It's almost like shooting a shotgun and kicking it, you know. It has a powerful force that goes back behind it. And I had the opportunity to shoot the bazooka too. And of course, they didn't have anything on here for it, but they used it a lot in sort of an anti-tank gun. They'd shoot it at tanks, you know. And it'd go pretty good distance. It had a pretty powerful load in it. So I also had some training on that. But that was and I made the shadow box myself. This was the things you wore on the collar of your shirt. And that signified you was in the United States military, and that was the branch you was in. This was one. Then, you know, you had the little tiny cap you wore on your head. That went up on the side of the little cap. There again, it designated the branch service you was in. That was a unit commendation medal. And this was the same as this. It was a South Korean commendation medal. And that given by the South Korean government, and this was by the American government. They call it commendation. I think they refer to it as meritorious service. In other words, you kept your nose, there again, kept your nose clean, and you did what you were supposed to do. You didn't shirk your duty. You were there on time. You were in the place you were supposed to be. You did what you were supposed to be, and you did it in the way that you were trained to do it. And so that's the medal display. And that came about as a result of my wife one day asked me, he says, "Your children want to know where your medals are." And you know, when you're on the battlefield, they don't give you medals. You earn medals. The only medal I got was this one right here, the very first one. But I had earned all these others. So I went down to the military store in Port Rooker and bought all of this and put it together. Now I had earned all these medals, but the only one I was awarded was that Good Conduct Medal when I got out of the Army. And that was the last thing they did. They shook my hand and gave me a Good Conduct Medal. And I think they were saying, "Goodbye, we're glad you're gone." At least I did. I was glad I was gone. But in any event, that's the shadow box I made to display the weapons. And I have it hanging on the wall in the house. But one thing I'd say about this, you know, I was the mayor when we got this smart plant and all. And I had several of the South Korean dignitaries in my home. And one of them was sitting there in my den, this hanging on the wall in the den, on the couch, and he looked up and he saw it. He says, "Oh, you were in the Korean War?" I said, "Yes." He got up and went over and bowed in front of this display and says, "Thank you, thank you." And that was really touching. But that lets you know how much they appreciated us being over there and helping them get where they are today. And this was years later, but they still appreciated the fact that we went over there. And we didn't go there in a war of aggression. We went over there in a war to keep that demarcation line. See, after World War II, when Japanese occupied Korea for 40 years before World War II, and then after the war was over, the United States and Russia split it. The United States, or the Allies, our allies, got South Korea, and the Russia and China got North Korea. And of course that is still there today. And if you take a look at the world situation today now, you can see what's going on in North Korea. as compared to what's going on in South Korea. All North Korea is doing is trying to be a military power, and there won't ever be anything but a little puppy dog. But it's popular with their people, I suppose. And their whole economy is based on the military. All the money, everything they got goes to the military. And the people in North Korea are just peasants. They're really hurting. A lot of them go hungry without food, don't have decent homes, decent clothing. But they don't really let you see that. They keep it hid from you. And the last thing I mentioned on the shadow box, a little thing in the bottom I had made. And all that is just give my name, branch of service, and my serial number, US 53128-690. And you had to learn to memorize it, and I could still memorize it to this day. And one of the things about that, if you were caught as a prisoner of war, they said don't ever give your captor anything but your serial number. Don't give him any information. Just if he asks you, just give him your name, rank, and serial number. And says they'll keep asking you questions, and some of them will break down and tell, and you never know what you're divulging when you're talking. And we had a lot of training on that too. And I remember when they were training me, he went around with me 3 or 4 or 5 different times, and they were trained to try to see if you were going to divulge anything you weren't supposed to. And finally, after about 10 or 15 minutes, well, I told the fellow that was quit, I said, you just wasting my time, yours too. I said, I already told y'all I'm going to tell you. He laughed, he said, well, it's time to quit. But he decided, but a lot of them would break down and start talking. And that's what they're trying to do, is trying to instill in you, don't give anything that will provide information on that. Don't tell them what base you're from. Don't tell them how many men you're in your outfit. Don't tell them what kind of training you had. Don't tell them anything. So they'll take that and use it against you. And that's and that serial number that I had there, it was our number they gave us when we were drafted. And that's what we went by. It was all you were supposed to give them, and that identified you. And they could take the serial number and identify who the person was.
Frank, got a couple more questions.
All right.
Your greatest accomplishment has been the success of your children. So how have your children done this?
How have my children?
Like, they're your greatest accomplishment. Like, your children are your greatest accomplishment. So, like, how have they, like, reached that goal for you?
You know, I don't think I answered that in a way of what I have done. I think my answer to that, I feel like my greatest accomplishment was my children. And, you know, and the successes they've become. And of course, I pushed them some, and some I didn't have to push too hard, and some I did. Because, you know, young children, a lot of times, some of them they didn't want to go to school too much, and some went to school and they want to have a good time. And so I had to push pretty hard. And I told my boys one time, I said, I want to tell you something. I said, a college education's not worth any more than a piece of paper it's written on, other than the fact that it proves to a prospective employer that you can learn to do what he wants you to learn to do about his business. And that's still true today. I mean, yeah, that piece of paper, it doesn't mean we're learning. And that's the real value, even high school education. High school education does the same thing to employers. You know, if you're not going to college, it proves to the employer that you can do what he wants you to do in his business. And that's the reason it's so important that you seek to reach those milestones in your life, and you have the opportunity to go to college, reach there. And there are certain jobs that you can't get if you don't have a college education. And even there's certain jobs you don't get if you don't have a high school education. And then, of course, if you had an advanced education, sometimes you can get some of the higher paying jobs by having that. But education certainly has its value, and generally its value is in the payback that you receive from it.
What does Veterans Day mean to you?
Veterans Day? Veterans Day means a lot to me. I think I respect every man that's ever worn the uniform of the United States military, whether it be Army, Navy, Air Force, because they have put themselves in a situation that if duty demanded it, they have to put their life at stake. And that takes a lot of courage. And and so with that said, now sometimes some people like that don't fulfill what they're supposed to do, and they lose that respect. But the ones that fulfill what they're supposed to do will always maintain that respect, because they have put themselves in a situation of perhaps giving their lives that we might have a better life. And that's what our military does. Our military is not, as I said before, we're not a nation of aggression. We're a nation to preserve the freedoms and liberties of our country and of our allies. And our freedoms and liberties that we have through this country are the most precious thing we have. And sometimes they are curtailed to a degree, but still, the first thing we have is freedom of election. We can vote for who we want to. And then the freedom of choice. We can choose to do what we want to. If we make the bad choices, we can be held accountable for them. But still, we still have the freedom of choices. And what I like, and we're having a lot of things about that, is the right to bear arms. And when we see all the discontent among people in this nation today, I feel like that's something that should be maintained. And that goes back to the phrase that a man's home is his castle. You don't invade his home. You don't invade his castle. Now, you might go into his business, or you might go out in his fields and get some of his crops or something, but don't mess with his home. And that's the reason we have the right to bear arms, is to protect that home and protect what's ours, and that people would take from us, steal, burn, or destroy. And so those freedoms and they're not there to penalize, they're there to protect. Even our laws, I've mentioned this in the city, in the police and all. People talk about the police. I says the police are here to protect you, not to penalize you. I says you incur the penalties because you don't obey the laws. And they're there to enforce the laws, but the laws are made to protect you. Speed limits, stop signs, yield signs, every aspect of the law. And I also told one that was complaining to me about it. I says the traffic laws are the easiest laws in the world to obey. Every one of them got a sign telling you what you got to do. It gives you the speed limit, it gives you a stop sign, stop, yield sign, yield, and red lights and green lights to go. Sometimes caution light, you look both ways before you go. So everything's out there for you if you'll just obey it. And that's one of the reasons that we have laws, not to penalize our people. The people penalize by breaking law. And usually they do that by doing things that are illegal.
And finally, what does it mean to you to be a veteran?
To be a veteran?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think I'll put that to Mr. Howard. I wouldn't take anything for being a veteran and experience what I experienced, but I wouldn't pay anything to do it again. It's something you treasure, but it's a treasure that you don't want to renew. although I think every veteran feels like I did, because I'm too old now, but if I was called upon it to do it again, I'd be willing to do it again.